Have you ever wondered why so many people struggle their way through life, and other people it seems like everything's effortless, and they make all this money, and they can do whatever they desire to do. They can eat where they want to eat. They can live in the house they desire to live in. They can drive the cars they desire to drive. They can experience the world like as their playground, and other people just struggle to keep the lights on. So I want to talk to you today about how to make $1 million step by step. And I'm not going to give you any theory because I don't know any. I don't know any theories. Um, I just know the stuff that I do, and I am here to tell you. I've got great news for you. It is literally, everybody say literally. It is literally no harder to make $1 million than it is to make $100 or $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000. No harder. In fact, I would submit to you that it's actually easier because of the things that you have to do to make $1 million are not based on hard work. I think part of the reason we struggle our way through existence is because of the lies that we buy, and they cost too much. We bought into lies like you got to work hard for your money. Well, do you? We bought into lies like time is money. Is it? We bought into lies like a hard day's work for a hard day's pay. Here's why I'm talking about this. If I believe that a hard day's work for a hard day's pay is right, and I desire to be a good, honest, honorable, noble person, then I am going to ignore the easy answers that could work and only take action when I find the hard things that might work. See, we don't realize that we've been programmed. We have been programmed. I love the fact that the Bible has all of these answers and all these pictures and all these antidotes. Like when I think about the children of Israel in Egypt as slaves for 400 years, and it doesn't just tell us that they were slaves. It tells us what their job was. Their job was to make bricks so they could build the kingdom that enslaved them. Isn't that fascinating? Like, isn't it interesting that we've all been programmed to make bricks, to build the kingdom that enslaves us? Isn't it fascinating that when Moses told Pharaoh, God said, let my people go, he said, oh, y'all don't have enough to do. Y'all sitting around trying to figure out how to go worship in the wilderness? Oh, okay, I got something for you. Okay, I've been giving y'all straw to make your bricks because they make the bricks out of straw and clay. I ain't giving y'all no more straw. Go get the straw yourself, make the bricks, and by the way, you better not make one brick less today than you made yesterday. So he doubled down on their work. And somehow they got programmed, they got just commanded to build the bricks that build the kingdom that enslaves us. The bricks that we build that build the kingdom that enslaves us are the thoughts that we keep rethinking that have already demonstrated that they can't serve us, nor do they give us the ability to serve anybody else. The habits that we've developed that are to our detriment, and we can see clearly that they're to our detriment, but we don't get rid of those habits and replace them with some new ones. And so most people are making bricks to build the kingdom that enslaves them. So I'm going to share with you how not to do that anymore. So it starts with our beliefs. So here's what we believe about making $1 million. I know because this is what I used to believe. Before I ever made $1 million, here's what I believed. I believed it was hard. Making $1 million is hard. Why did I believe making $1 million is hard? Because the best job I had ever had in my life, I was making $30,000 a year. And the work that I did to make $30,000 a year was hard. So if $1 million is 35 times more than $30,000, then making $1 million it's just logical. It has to be 35 times harder. Because I don't realize that the things that I do that make $30,000 a year, regardless of how many hours I work or how hard I work in those hours, is never going to make me $1 million a year. So I've got a faulty equation based on faulty programming. And so I never stop to think about how do you make $1 million? And since the thought never enters my head, I never think about how to do it. And when I think about it, the only thought I have about it is how hard it is. Then I avoid thinking about it because then I have to think about all that hard work. You see how it's a trap? And we've been programmed by the system that in order for answers to be right, they have to be hard to come by. Has anybody ever diagrammed a sentence as an adult? I'm just wondering. Is there anybody in this room who's ever diagrammed a sentence as an adult? Right. Why? Because adults don't diagram sentences. So instead of teaching our children to do things that they will have to do for the rest of their lives, we make them memorize a bunch of random, totally useless information to validate the intelligentsia of the institution and to document and validate the degree of the teachers in those institutions. What if instead we made education about our children's preparation? Well, there's a novel concept. Then maybe when we got to be adults, we wouldn't be 35, 45, 55 years old, wandering around in the wilderness of indecision, attempting to figure out how to make our life work. Because I'm telling you right now, all of the principles that you need to know to become financially independent, you could have understood them in the 5th grade. So the question then becomes, how long have I been out of the 5th grade? That's a good question. I've been out of the 5th grade for a while. So how comes it's not working? Because I've avoided it subconsciously. By the way, let me say this. I thought you were going to teach me how to make I am. That's what I'm doing right now. See, but you think you know what it looks like even though you never made $1 million. This is what teaching how to make $1 million step by step looks like. Because if you don't start here, it doesn't matter if I teach you what to do. If I don't show you how to become the person who will do it, you're not going to do it. It all begins with beliefs. So you believe that making $1 million a year is hard, so you don't do it. I don't believe making $1 million an hour is hard. So sometimes I have $1 million hours. And I know you don't think that's fair. But what you don't realize, I don't care. I don't care about fair. You know why? When I was in elementary school, my dad told me, boy, I'm going to tell you something. Life ain't fair. Yes, sir. I knew life wasn't fair when I was in elementary school. See how much stuff you can learn in elementary school if you just pay attention? So it starts with belief. So I'm going to teach you something about belief that will help you accomplish anything that you desire to accomplish for the rest of your life. Everybody say, I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay, here it is. Never assign a level of difficulty to something before you even take the first step. People who achieve don't look at stuff and think about how hard it's going to be. Ever. It is just what it is. It's only going to be as hard as it is. It can't possibly be any harder than that. And so what happens is when you look at something, like people who desire to get to a certain weight, they look, well, but I've tried dieting before. Well, maybe dieting isn't the way to get to your desired weight. People who are not healthy, but they desire to get healthy. Yeah, but I've tried taking supplements and exercising and I don't like it. Okay, that's fine. But see, you already have demonstrated that you don't know what to do. And so now because you don't know what to do, you're assigning a level of difficulty to what to do based on the fact that you don't know what to do. That's insanity. It doesn't make any sense. So stop looking at things and assigning a level of difficulty to them, because when you do, when you look at something and you assign a level of difficulty to it that's bigger than you are disagreeing with God. How do I know? What is man that thou art mindful of him? The Son of Man that thou visitest him, for thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet. So I've never come across a situation that's bigger than me, that's stronger than me, that's outside of the realm of my capability. If you'd go back 150 years, you'd think, like everybody thought, well, flying in the air is impossible. Orville and Wilbur's dad told him, if God wanted you to fly, he'd have put wings on your back. See, we allow our beliefs to stop us from taking the action that would work if we would work it. Are y'all tracking? Okay, cool. So, how do you make $1 million? Step by step. Number one, don't assign a level of difficulty. Y'all tracking? Number two, decide to do it. Just decide, I'm going to do it. And once you decide to do it, then you can let your subconscious mind start looking for the answers to how to do it. Here's what I found out. You don't have to know how to do something in order to get it done. In fact, there are a lot of things right now, I'm not talking about sometime in the future, there are a lot of things right now in your life that you know how to do, but you ain't doing them. Can I get a witness? You ain't doing them. Huh? So don't act like, well, if I only knew. Child, please. Okay. So, decide to do it. Now, decide does not mean the same thing as choose. Right? Choose means pick one. See, if you make a choice, you can change your mind. But if you make a decision, there is no changing your mind. It's like I talked about a couple weeks ago. I talk about like when an airplane's taking off, you get to a certain point, it's called the point of no return. It's like, we are going to take, this plane's going to go up in the air or it's going to crash and burn. We're not slowing down. We're not starting over. Like, and see, when you get to the point of no return, the point of no return is based on two things: where you are and how fast you're going. You can't creep up to the point of no return. See, and you want to inch your way up to a decision. That's not how decisions work. Decisions work like this. You cut yourself off from everything else. That's what the word decide means. So you just decide, I'm going to do this. You decide, I'm going to make $1 million. You decide, I'm going to become a best-selling author. You decide, I'm going to get in shape. You decide, I am not going to be old and sick and fat and out of, I'm not going to do it. You just decide. And you make a decision. I'm like, I can decide. I have autonomy. Okay, so you decide, I'm going to make $1 million. Okay, then you discover the principles and do the math. Now, here's the cool thing about the math. Y'all ready? It's 5th grade math. It's actually 3rd grade math, but I'm doing my best to make you feel good. 5th grade math. There's no algebra involved. There's no trigonometry. There's no calculus. It's just basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and percentages. I don't know. I promise you, if somebody would have showed me what I'm about to show you when I was in the 5th grade, I'd have been a millionaire by the time I was in the 9th grade. Y'all ready? Here we go. So, before I start doing the math, let me tell you one other thing you got to do. You have to disconnect your revenue generation from time. That's how they get us. They get us by programming us to anchor our revenue generation to time in the form of dollars per hour, to the point that even when business owners decide on their pricing, they decide on their pricing based on dollars per hour. I don't like dollars per hour. May I share with you why I don't like dollars per hour? Yes? Okay, here's why. Because time is a limited resource. So if I anchor my revenue generation to time, then the amount of revenue I can generate is always going to be limited. So in order for me to generate unlimited wealth, and I know some people don't like that idea, I don't have time to fix that for you right now. I don't. But if I desire to generate unlimited wealth, to provide for my family for generations, then I must disconnect my revenue generation from time. And when I anchor my revenue generation from time, it needs to be a number that's big enough to make me not mind so much. That's why I charge $40,000 an hour for consulting. And some people think, well, I'd never pay you $40,000 for consulting, for an hour of consulting. I know, and you'd never get $40,000 worth of consulting from me in an hour. So both of us are happy. Are y'all tracking? So disconnect your revenue generation from time, which means if you're going to build wealth through starting a business that sells a product or a productized service is the way to do that. So I'm going to pick a product that's really simple that I've got right here, and I'm just going to say a book. Now, you could write a book. Now, as soon as I said that, here's what some of you thought. Some of you on Instagram, but I don't know how to write a book. That was your first thought. Or how do you write a book? Or why would somebody want to read my book? Okay, so here's a millionaire formula for you. Ready? If you ask disempowering questions, you cannot find empowering answers. You're not going to find what you're not looking for. So when I decided to write a book, I didn't know how to write a book. I had no idea how to write a book. So I asked myself the question, does anybody know how to write a book? Well, I found these two guys that had sold over 100 million books. Anybody know their names? Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield. And they wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. They didn't actually write it. They compiled it. That's probably the most brilliant business idea ever. I don't even have time to go into that. In fact, y'all remind me to do a video called Chicken Soup for the Moneymaker Soul. Okay. Anyway, so Mark Victor Hansen had a book conference where he was teaching people how to become best-selling authors. And it was only $2,000. I got $2,000. I'm going to the conference because I know I'm going to write a book. And while I was at that conference, I bought $18,000 worth of training material to teach me how to become a best-selling author. Because different people had courses. This is how you sell your books. This is how you market your books. This is how you promote your book. This is how you get your book. I bought all of it. Why? Because I decided I'm going to be a best-selling author. And guess what happened? I wrote my first book, which was this book, but it was a different title. It was called The Ebony Treasure Map, The Roadmap to Riches for African Americans. Same book, different title. And when I wrote that book, and I printed it, I found out at that conference that the average book only sells 500 copies. There's over at that time there was like 190,000 new books titles published every year, and the average book never sold more than 500 copies. So guess how many copies I got printed? 500, right? Because I'm an optimist. But the first week I sold 900 copies at $20 a piece. 900 times 20, that's 18,000. Huh. So I made my $18,000 back, and I still have the book. Had to get new books printed. The second printing was like 3,000. Then 10,000, then 15,000. And we just kept printing them, selling them. Now, so here's what you do. You need a product that makes you $20 profit. So, $20. All you have to do to make $1 million is sell 50,000 of them. We have sold over 170,000 copies of this book. Is that more than 50,000? Yes. This is one of our books, by the way. Okay. You sell 50,000 copies, so I'm going to teach you some more fifth grade math, right? This is a fifth grade math trick. It's actually a third grade math trick. Here we go. If you're multiplying two numbers that end in 0, you multiply the two numbers. 5 times 2 equals, okay, let me put the times there, equals 10. Then you count the zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom, boom. It's $1 million. You sell 50,000 books. So I know when I say sell 50,000 books, I know what you're thinking. You say, how do you know what I'm thinking? I'm kind of a mind reader. It's not the real reason. How do I know what you're thinking? Because this is human nature. How do you sell 50,000 copies? Am I telling the truth? How many of y'all thought, but how do you sell 50,000? How many of y'all are thinking that? Come on now, be honest. Yeah, exactly. You haven't even written the book yet. But you're letting how do you sell 50,000 copies keep you from writing the book. But if you write the book, you're more likely to figure out the ways to sell 50,000 copies than you are to figure out how to sell 50,000 copies before you write the book and then write the book because you know how to sell them. Are y'all tracking? What if you got on the right podcast? One podcast could sell 50,000 books. Are y'all tracking? If Oprah puts your book on her list of favorite things, you're going to sell more than 50,000 books. See, all you have to do is realize that somebody out there already has the attention of the audience that would love you. Love who? Everybody tap yourself on the chest, say me. Yeah, somebody out there already has the attention of the audience that would love you. So you sell 50,000 books. Cool. Well, what do you do next? Well, let's say that's too much work and you don't feel like doing all that. Because I can see some of y'all clearly are not up for the task. You're like, it's a lot. Okay, cool. So let's do this. I found out with this same math trick, if I take the 0 off the back of this number and put it on the back of this number, the answer stays the same. So if I take that content in this book and I turn it into an audio program, not an audio book, an audio program, or an audio course, I can sell the same information for $200. And now I can do 1/10 the work and make the same amount of money. What? Did y'all hear what I just said? Okay, maybe I'm the only one excited by this. But this is $1 million a year. Okay. So my business currently sells between $70,000 and $90,000 worth of books a month. So this is not theory. I'm not teaching you any theory. We sell over $1 million worth of books every year, just books. Courses, totally different concept. But guess what? When I moved that 0 and it like divided my workload by 10, that's one way to look at it, or it multiplied my output by 10, however you want to look at it. I said, let me hire an attorney and a scientist and a minister and see if there are any scientific, municipal, or spiritual laws against moving zeros. They all three said the same thing. No, you can move as many as you want to. I said, well, let me move another one. And I take the same content and turn it into a course, a full-blown home study course, and I can sell it for $2,000. And now I only have to sell 500. Now, here's the cool thing about 500. 500 is only 2 a day, 5 days a week. And you can take weekends off. What? And you get a 2-week vacation. Okay. I feel the need to repeat something here because y'all looking at me kind of funny. This is not theory. No. Like, if somebody would just show me how, this is what I do. This is not what I'm thinking about doing. This is not what I read about doing. This ain't what I heard about doing. This is what I do. I do this. What? All this. Then some. So I said, well, you know what? There's still some more zeros down here on the bottom. Well, I like it when we move these zeros to the top row. Move another one. What if I have a $20,000 mastermind? I only have to sell 50. That's only 1 a week. What? 1 a week for a year? I have a lady who used to be in my $55,000 mastermind. She had an automated webinar that sold a $2,000 product, and she was making $500,000 a month. Step by step. You say, what are the steps? Move another 0. Okay, that's 5 steps. That's 5 steps. Better keep on stepping. Right? That's 5 steps. What if you create a $200,000 VIP day? I did that. I created a $200,000 VIP day. I didn't know if anybody was going to buy it, but here's what I knew. If I didn't create it, nobody wasn't going to buy it. See, you let your what ifs talk you out of stuff that I let my what ifs talk me into. I wish I had some help. And I created this $200,000 VIP day. Guess how many people bought it the first year? 18 people. That's what I said. 18 people. That's $3.6 million. I am not bragging. Here's what I'm doing. I'm saying, hey, my friends, come here. I'm going to show you something really, really cool that I learned and that I've been doing for the last couple of decades. And it really, really works really, really well. Way better than dollars per hour. And while you were talking yourself out of it, I was talking myself into it. Guess what I did? January last year, no, not January, October 2022, because that's when I introduced that $200,000 program. October 2023, I raised the price from $200,000 to $350,000. Sold 10 more. That's another $3.5 million. You say, Myron, why are you telling us this? I'm telling you this because if you can help somebody achieve a result, they will happily pay you. But here's what you got to do. Here's what you got to do. Here's the secret sauce to make all of this stuff I just talked about work. To make the book so it sells. This is the part that's going to be hard for you until you just decide that this is what you're going to do anyway. Don't make any of it about you. Don't write a book about you. I just want to tell my story. Nobody wants to read about your story. The only people that care about your story is you and your mama, and she don't want to read about it. She was there when it happened, and it wasn't that interesting the first time. I wrote the book called From the Trash Man to the Cash Man. You know what people think? People think this is my story. This ain't my story. These are my discoveries. This ain't my story. My story? Who cares about my story? I barely care about my story. Nobody cares. You have to make everything that you do in every product that you create, every book that you write, every home study course, you have to obsess over other people's problems so that they are willing to pay you because they realize you've obsessed over their problems more than they have. Here's what I found out. A $20 book is easy to sell. Would y'all like to know why a $20 book is easy to sell? Everybody say yes. Because it's easy for them to pay for. Did you hear what I just said? Guess what? A $200 product is easy to sell. You know why? For the same reason. A $200 product is easy to sell for the same reason. I'm going to blow your mind. A $2,000 product, a $20,000 product, a $200,000 product, a $350,000 product, even a $1 million product. I have a $1 million coaching program that we only allow 5 people a year at a time in it. And we only have 3 people in it right now. I know, poor thing. Okay, here's my point. The $1 million program is easy to sell. How can I say that? Doesn't that sound ridiculous? Come on now, don't that sound ridiculous? Come on now, it sounds ridiculous. Here's why it's easy to sell. Because I don't emphasize how much it costs if they say yes. I emphasize how much it costs if they say no. And I always make sure the cost of saying no is higher than the cost of saying yes. And when you get that down, it'll change your life for the rest of your life. And that is how you make $1 million step by step. All right, hope that blesses you. In the meantime, in between time, stay blessed by the best, my people. We'll see you in the next video.